That's great.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Mickey Doyle, Special Events Manager for the Greater Green Bay Chamber. Today's webinar is closed to the media, so if you're a part of the media, we please ask that you jump off at this time, and we will take interviews if needed later. We could ask that you keep yourself on mute at this time. If you have a question for the presenter, please type them in the comment box, and we will get to them either at the end of the presentation or through the presentation if needed. We know that this is a difficult time for everyone, and we are bringing you seminars to help alleviate some of that stress and your concerns, and this one is no different. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. David Ferguson with IKOR Management. Dave, take us away.
Thanks so much, Mickey. It's really nice. I've adapted over the last couple of weeks to the format. This had been in the works for a little while. Mickey and I have been working on this as a live event in May, but I'm so pleased to be able to do this. I really appreciate taking just a little bit of time out of your day to join us today. So I'm a physician, educator, and coach in the areas of health and wellness, stress management, focusing on seniors and their families. And sometimes I hear from families that that they're struggling to try to balance that work and taking care of someone, or they're frustrated kind of working through healthcare challenges. And if you've been in that position, you know how stressful it can be trying to take care of somebody, especially if they don't want to be taken care of. So I think the techniques, one of the things I do is help families manage that stress. And again, our hope is to try to give you some real simple tools that you can start using right away today to start helping you manage this. Now, I mean, for most of us, we live in a stressful world even before all of this COVID mess that we're in has just exacerbated everything. It's introduced a lot of uncertainty, which oftentimes is a source of stress for people. And it's made it very difficult to manage what was already, to me, kind of a stressful world that we live in. So again, today, I'm going to be talking about some techniques to help you. Again, you can start this today. And oftentimes I focus on helping caregivers because that's one of the most stressful situations you can be in. But again, these techniques are applicable for everyone. And again, I just want to emphasize, they're simple, they're efficient, and they're effective. And we'll get into that a little bit, why that is, why that works. Now, I just want to start off to say, I've told before, this is a picture of the laboratory at the first hospital that I worked, but it wasn't like that when I got there. I'm not that old. So, it's very hard to understand in some ways what we're going through with this pandemic, but we have tremendous resources, and clinical trials are underway right now. And I just want to know, we may be further along into this than you realize. So we will get through this. This was a state-of-the-art laboratory about the time of the last big world pandemic around the flu in 1918. This is what a laboratory looked like. And so we just have tremendous resources available to us. We're in such a better place today. It may not feel like that right now, but we will get through this, and especially working together. So today, I just really, again, the objectives was that I think you're all aware of what stress, what impact it has on you, so I don't have to go into that problem very much. You feel it every day. You know what that's like. One of the messages I want to leave you with is that stress management is really about energy management. You wake up in the morning, you have so much energy to start your day, and does it leak out in all sorts of ways with negative emotions or attitudes? And can you do things during the day to try to keep those? I call it kind of a leaky bucket. Can you plug some of those holes? And again, the most important message today is that you can learn some new skills. You're not necessarily stuck in the patterns that you might be using to manage some of the stress. I'm just going to say too, if you hear my dog barking, he's downstairs, so I try to keep him quiet, but he might start carrying on. So again, these are some of the things that you might be experiencing right now: fatigue, pain is worsened, difficulty sleeping, irritability, headaches. Stress makes it harder to manage your blood pressure, diabetes. There's just so many things that can be affected in stressful situations. And you might see different numbers in the literature, but it's probably safe to say that 3/4 of doctor's visits have some kind of stress component to them. And I think that's even, again, that's exacerbated by everything that we're going through right now. So it has incredible health consequences being under stress for a long time. So again, today, my goal is to help add some tools to your toolbox, essentially, that, so the picture I took while spending some time with a blacksmith, and, every one of these hammers has they're different weights, they have a different face to them. So, this is I want you to think about adding some tools to the toolbox that you have. Exercise is one of those, good nutrition, good sleep habits. There's a lot of things that you can do to mitigate some of the effects of stress. And just think about this being another tool you can put in your toolbox. And again, stress management is intelligent energy management. You can think about it like that. So we're just going to jump in. You don't have to. What's so beautiful about this to me is that the science behind it, which we're going to spend a little time talking about, why this works and why this is effective. I mean, if you go to the self-help section at the library, my office is right next to the Crest Family Library, and I will often walk over there for lunch. And if you look at the self-help section, it's one of the biggest sections in the book section, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? There's lots of different ways out there that you can try to tackle some of these things. But we're going to jump into this right away. I want you to experience, I want you to feel the shift that can happen when you initiate some of these skills, some of these tools, and then we'll circle back and I'll explain a little bit of the science behind it and maybe help you. I come up from a background of engineering. My undergraduate's in biomedical engineering, and I was a science geek in high school and into the whole SPAD group doing the Apollo missions, and so that's what kind of drew me to this initially. But I want you to just start. I want you to think of something right now that's been worrying you, frustrating you, making you angry at times. Maybe this is something that wakes you up at night. Maybe you're having you're spending all this time now with your spouse or partner. Maybe there's some things that are on your mind that are making it difficult for you. I want you to think about what's your top. If there's one big thing that you could see improve in terms of the stress, I want you to think about that. And I just want you to give how does that make you feel? What's going on when you're worried, angry, frustrated? I want you to, as painful as that might be, I want you to think about that right now. And then I'm going to take you through a couple of exercises, and I want you to just follow along with me. So if you're sitting comfortably with your feet on the floor, you can put your hand right in the center of your chest. And we're going to go through some breathing exercises here. And if you do this through meditation or prayer, or you practice Tai Chi or yoga, this might be familiar to you already. But I want you to draw a deep breath in behind your hand. Close your eyes and just kind of walk you through the practice. So it's just nice deep breath in. Maybe even feel your belly button come out. And exhale, let all the air out. Nice deep breath. So 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. We're going to start just some breathing here. Nice deep breath for 5. Exhale. Get yourself in a nice breathing pattern, slow, deep breaths, slower and deeper than you usually breathe. We'll settle into this for another minute or two. Now, this is the first step. And what happens is your blood pressure comes down a little bit, your heart rate slows. Just keep breathing in this slower, deeper pattern. It kind of initiates a relaxation response. If one of those worrying thoughts pops back into your head, just draw your attention to that space behind your hand. Focus on your breath. Just continue breathing deeper and slower than you normally do. So that's step one. Step two now is to regenerate, to really have a deep sense or think, something that you appreciate or that you're grateful for. Now, sometimes in difficult times, like right now, it can be hard to come up with things that maybe you're grateful for. So if you're struggling with that, think of sometime, a celebration, birth of a child, and a graduation, an anniversary. I want you to think of an event where you might have experienced joy or deep appreciation. Somebody did something for you, or you did something for someone else. And just think about who was there. Think about what food maybe was served. Think about the music that was being played. Really re-experience what that was like for you. Because we really want you to feel the emotion of that experience, that time of joy, appreciation, gratitude, courage. Those are all restorative emotions that you can conjure up, that you can recreate for yourself. So as you're breathing, I want you to practice that idea of regenerating an appreciation or gratitude. So if you're just joining us, we're doing some heart focused breathing, some deep, slow breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Just jump into that breathing pattern. We'll just continue here. So again, step two is to regenerate a positive emotion. And then step three, we've been working on our daily kind of midday break we've been doing for the month of April, is to replace worry, frustration, anger with an attitude that's going to serve you better. So think about bringing in calm or ease. So with every deep breath, breathe in calm, ease, hope. Those are all, again, attitudes which will better serve you during this time. So it doesn't take very long. I mean, it depends on the situation you're in, but I hope you were just experienced a little bit of shift of what it felt like when you were maybe worried about something, to when you go through these stages of deep breathing, bringing up appreciation, gratitude, what that feels like, and then to breathe in calm or ease. Because that little step, and whether you do it for a couple of minutes or 5 minutes, or you're really in a situation where you have a little time to extend something out, kind of amazing things happen. Again, your physiology changes, and the information that you send from your heart to your brain starts changing the way the brain works. So we're going to come back to that a little bit later, but I wanted to jump right in so you could kind of experience that, what that's like. So I show this picture a lot. How's your day going, right? If you've experienced something like this, you know what this was because she couldn't have candy for breakfast, right? But again, within a couple of minutes, she's off playing with her brother and she's back happy again, right? So that's what the amazing thing about kids. They can flip back and forth. they haven't necessarily developed these patterns of letting, basically paths that they can get stuck in. You might know somebody who carries a grudge and is talking about something bad that happened last week or last month or 2 years ago, right? Or they stay angry, something happens and they fly off the handle and they're still talking about it 8 hours later, right? That ability to regulate our emotions is so important, because it's really at the core of wellness. It's at the center of how we do and how we function during the day. And so this is a study that was done back in, I think, in the late 90s. It was about over 5,000 people, which is a big study for a longitudinal study. And they followed these people for 15 years, which again is a long time for a longitudinal study. And what they did is they scored them on their ability to do the things I'm talking about, the ability to just shift from being upset to being calm, or the ability to manage their frustration, their anger. And they scored them using some scales. And the people who are at the bottom of the scale, they scored them. And so there were people, of course, at the bottom who have a very difficult time with self-regulation of their emotions. And there were people all the way up at the very, very top who were very good at it. And they followed those people for 15 years. And they found that the people who are at the very top, who are very good at this, were 50 times more likely to be alive and well than those who are at the bottom, right? So, I was surprised when I saw those numbers that it was that big, but it really shouldn't be that much of a surprise, because when you can't regulate those emotions, you don't know how to manage that, you're more likely to engage in risky behaviors. Maybe smoking, not eating the things, not exercising, all the things that put us at risk for not being well. You're just less able to manage those when you can't adjust to the situations you're in. And so, again, I just explained the solutions I use. I've been practicing this now for almost 25 years. I'm a certified practitioner, and I got introduced to this idea that our heart and our brain are connected in a way that I didn't learn in medical school, right? The heart was a pump. It sat there and it beat and it circulated your blood, and your brain did its thing, and brain's controlling everything. And but HeartMath, the researchers at HeartMath introduced this idea based on the research that they were doing, that it's much more complicated than that, right? They're much more connected. And so again, it's been tremendously beneficial for me. And we now offer it as part of our life care management. And I had an opportunity to help a client who's waiting for an ambulance to take her to the hospital, and never had heard any of this thing before. And I just walked her through those steps, and I could just see the shoulders come down, the ease and the calm, kind of come over face, because the fear is addressed, right? It becomes less fearful and more managed concern. So I'm going to introduce this idea today too, that this is the map that we all live in. This is kind of our emotional world that we experience every day in. And right now, you may be on this anger, anxiety, frustration, resentment side of the circle. And the idea is to use the techniques I'm talking about today to shift you a little bit closer into the center, and even at times find you can find deep appreciation, you can find some contentment, you can find you can get over here even in very difficult times. And so again, most of us right now are in the top half of the circle. This is kind of when we're hyper aware, aroused, a lot of energy, a lot of uncertainty. But if you spend all your time up here in the anger, anxiety area of the map, you eventually will end up down here. We just cannot avoid that. And down here is burnout, basically, apathy, sadness, loss of energy. And so you really want to avoid getting down there by working on some of this. And the other part about this is that this isn't just an emotional thing. Cortisol is a stress hormone. We need it, but if it sticks around for a long time, it robs your bones of minerals. It accelerates heart disease. It actually is a neurotoxin in your brain. I mean, there's so many effects that can come from not addressing these hormone changes that come with chronic stress. So again, your heart is the way. It's kind of the pathway. It's the gateway into changing how you think. And if you've ever experienced this, I was at a networking event and saw an individual get up and then it just freeze. I think I could have gone up, tapped the person on the shoulder and asked them their name, and they probably wouldn't have been able to say it, right? So, I mean, if you've experienced stage fright or you've seen it, our brain goes offline when we're fearful, angry, stressed. It just you cannot problem solve and be managing those negative draining emotions at the same time. And I say this all the time. It's why you can't find your car keys when you're upset. Or this morning, I was trying to load some software to get something working. It wasn't working, right? I mean, you can't think and problem solve when you're in one of these negative, draining emotional states. And so I just introduced this idea of orderliness. And when you practice these techniques, you build order into the systems, your body. And, there's really some simplicity in how beautiful some of these ordered things are. And so I often turn to nature to look for them, but coherence is something that you can improve by using these techniques. And ultimately you develop resilience. You're better able to face stress, adversity, trauma, and challenges by building this into your system. And so some of you may have seen some of this, if not, especially in I'm interested in exercise and the health benefits of exercise as medicine. And you may have heart rate variability if you're in your iWatch. No, is that right? Wearable technology from Fitbit to Apple and others are introducing heart rate variability because it's kind of a window into what's going on inside your body. Athletes are using this as a way to avoid overtraining. It kind of gives you a picture of what's going on inside. And so I just throw this up. When you're, again, frustrated, angry, worried.
Hey, everybody. I can see that someone is on with me, but I can't see who it is.
Sorry about that. Technology, right? So when you're frustrated, angry, worried, irritated, your heart rate variability pattern is jagged, it's disorganized, it makes no sense, it's incoherent. And when you're experiencing positive emotions like appreciation, love, care, your heart rate variability pattern changes and ultimately affects how your brain works. That's in a nutshell. I mean, I go much deeper in some of the workshops I do, but I just want you to think about that pattern. Again, when you're frustrated, angry, worried, irritated, your heart rhythm pattern changes along with that. And one of the ways to help you think more clearly, come up with better problem-solving skills, improve your communication, is to change the heart rate pattern, which happens with that deep breathing that we did, and that appreciation emotions that come up with it. Just throw this up real quick. You can see what happens right away. This is a tracing of myself actually in a very stressful time. Over on the left-hand side, you can see how kind of jagged and disorganized it was. Got to my office. I have this technology and this software up, and right in the center, that yellow spot is when I start practicing heart-focused breathing, appreciation, and gratitude, and you can appreciate on the right side how orderly everything starts to become, how it looks like a sine wave, because it has a very nice smooth tracing, and that's what happens when you initiate that relaxation response and then start to regenerate that emotion. So some of you right now might be in this worry loop, I call it. It's a habit, essentially. It can develop over time, and again, it might be a trigger. It could be something someone says to you. It could be a kind of one of those invasive thoughts, losing a job, business operations suffering, whatever it is. There's a trigger, and you may start playing a tape without even recognizing. The routine here is again, whatever those worry thoughts might be, and then there might be some reward that's tied to that. So it could be reaching for the box of chocolates, or it might be, whatever your reward is, avoidance, sticking your head in the sand, whatever it might be that make this feel better. we develop these patterns of responding to things that are stressful or anxious. It could be a frustration loop, or I put this kind of in terms of the habit loop, but these are tapes or ways of us that eventually that we may not even be aware that we fall into these. And what you're practicing today, just now, what you just did, even for 5 minutes, is a way to kind of replace the worry loop with a coherence loop, where the trigger might be the invasive thought. It might be something, again, that you feel when you're, when the first step is to feel, to know where you are on that map, to recognize that you're anxious and that maybe you're angry, so that when you feel that trigger, you replace that worry habit or that worry thought or the whatever it is that's bothering you. You replace that with some heart-focused breathing and some of the other techniques. And that in itself, I don't know if that's what's difficult about this technology, but I can oftentimes, when I do this for a group, I'm working with a team, or residents, assisted living, whatever, I can see the face, I can see the smiles come spontaneously, right? You can feel the energy drop. That's the reward of practicing this technique. And you can do it at your desk, you can do it at, and we'll talk about the applications of where that comes in. But the idea here is to, replace that worry piece, the piece that has the negative health effects, to replace that with some coherence back. So again, the stress, the very first thing is to really just stop the energy drain. So again, you're in a situation and you're finding yourself just starting to get anxious, to worry. It's just to stop that by taking some deep breaths, and then step 2 is to do that appreciation step, the gratitude step, and then step 3 in this case is to breathe in calm or ease. And again, this is your map. Think about where you are today, and if you're experiencing quite a bit of anxiety and frustration, you can bring down the energy level into more something that's more manageable by taking some of those steps. But again, the first step is to recognize, to be self-aware. Where are you on the map, and then think about how you can make those changes. Again, so what we would do is just get back into give you a chance to practice this again, and just walk you through again and see. Again, it's practice. Whether it's a couple of minutes, 5 minutes if you have time. Kind of the amazing thing is after you stop, of course, you can't go out, you can't walk around breathing like this all the time, right? So if I measured you long term on using the technology and look at the heart rate variability, there are benefits that last after you practice this. So it's kind of like going to the gym. You lift weights, all the magic happens in the next 24, 48 hours when you start to build muscle. You don't get strong when you're at the gym. You get strong over the next 24, 48 hours or stronger. It's the same with practicing these techniques. You practice, and it has lasting benefits after you stop. And so the idea is to kind of string these throughout the day so that by the end of the day, you're not completely emotionally depleted and physically exhausted. So let's just do it again, just for a minute or two. I thought I'd just give you a chance to practice again. Heart in this, hand over the center of the chest. Nice deep breath. Exhale. And just keep your eyes closed. It helps to practice in the beginning with your eyes closed. And you feel like you've settled into a nice, slow, deep breathing pattern. Bring in that deep sense of appreciation or gratitude. this is why cultivating a habit of gratitude is so important, because you can go back and you can remember different events or people that have helped you, or then start breathing in a sense of calm or ease. Think back at time or place. If it's a favorite place like that you like to go, re-experience what it's like to be there. Recreate that place or person that you're with. Maybe there's someone that calms you. Just think about breathing in that calm or ease. When you're first practicing, and you could set, again, I do it depending on how I feel, but you could set a timer, midday break, 11:30, 11:35, practice some heart focused breathing. A couple of times a week. You might want to go longer when you have time. So that's it. That's one of the techniques that you can learn. And then again, the message here again finally is that you have the intention to make a change. You become aware. You pay attention. You refocus away from what's stressful. That's what heart focused breathing does. It also initiates some changes in your physiology, and then find an attitude which is really will better serve you than maybe one that's getting in your way. So when do you use this? When can you pull this when do you pull this tool out of your box? Difficult conversations with children, spouses, relatives, or friends. So you can have a conversation with a client. Maybe there's a part of a service recovery, and you know somebody's going to be upset with you. Then practice this couple of even a couple of seconds of breathing, cycling through this the breathing before you get on the phone is changes how you feel about and you're much more likely to maybe you'll apologize if you need to, or maybe you'll have more empathy and you can relate to what someone else is saying. When you can't sleep and you got those racing thoughts that are flooding in, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, instead of tossing and turning and worrying about getting back to sleep. That's oftentimes a big thing, right? I've got a full day tomorrow. I got to get a good night's sleep, and you start worrying about it. It's a great time to do that. When you're worried about tomorrow, or you're projecting your concerns into the future, worry about what's happening later today or tomorrow. When you start to get that sense, introduce this technique. When you find yourself ruminating about negative attitudes, we're just in the midst of all that right now. That's the signal that you need to interrupt that. Again, heart-focused breathing by itself without the elements is fantastic when you're upset, irritated, frustrated, right in the minute, right in the moment. It can really help bring down the energy. I tell people too, I think one of the reasons why I got why I became so proficient at this is I did the commute between Milwaukee and Waukesha for 15 years. You throw in Summerfest, and you throw in the fireworks, and then the Bucks and the Brewers. I mean, I'm in my car and heart-focused breathing. So, when you come home, when you get back into work, or if you're currently working now, you pull into the driveway before you head into the house. You leave your work at home so you can be present with your family. Things aren't maybe going well at home, and before you get into the workplace, that's a great time. If you're on sales, maybe the call didn't go very well. Maybe you get into the car and you start playing the shoulda, woulda, coulda tape. I should have said that, or I should have done this. It's a great time to just spend a couple of minutes decompressing from that, and before you get to your next call, before you pick up the phone and call the next client. You know, transitions are a great time to practice this. And again, using this before you go to sleep at night, and most importantly, before you start your day, to spend a couple of minutes setting the tone, setting the attitude for the day. Just a great way to start. So in summary, I just wanted to make sure that there were opportunity to really ask some questions and have some comments, but just wanted to leave you with this, again, with this idea that your ability to move away from these draining emotions into a more balanced, coherent state, and even find, joy, contentment, calmness, happiness, that is so important to your sense of wellness. And it's a keystone habit because it has the ability to send little ripples out through other parts of your life. And it's at the center. So I didn't include it today, but oftentimes you try to come at it from the outside. I should exercise more. I should eat better. I should be, kinder, or I should say nicer things, right? I mean, you try to come at it from that, or you try to come at it from the outside. It's much harder to do than when you come from a place when you're better balanced and more coherent. It makes all those things, other things easier. And that's why, to me, this is a keystone habit. It has the potential to affect some other parts of your life. The other message is that you're not stuck with the narrative. You're not stuck with the negative thoughts and attitudes. There's so much we don't have control of. And I think that, this pandemic we're in, again, demonstrates that for all of us. We're all in that boat. Most of the time it happens to just individuals or groups, right? You get that bad phone call, something happens to you, an accident. But right now we're all experiencing this common theme or idea that we don't have control of what's going on. The one thing you do have control over is you can always take control of your breath, right? You can always initiate some action that gives you a sense of control. And to me, that's incredibly powerful when you're in difficult situations, is to know that I don't have to stay that way, that there are things I can do to improve things for myself. And that just is really, to me, again, so powerful. And when you hear, you may have heard the term neuroplasticity in the literature, but or the talking about how your brain can change, just know that you're not stuck with those habit loops of worry and frustration. You can do something about learning some new skills. And again, finally, coherence is this idea that you can improve, you can boost your performance, improve your communication, and bring mental clarity and problem solving when you are in a coherent state. You cannot do that when you're incoherent. It's just, you try it sometimes. Try to problem solve when you're in the midst of one of those negative, draining emotional states. That's finished a little bit early, but I give you a chance to, if there's any questions, if there are any comments. Again, one of the things that I try to bring this in to our clients, our families, to try to help them manage some of their stress, and we're certainly available to help you during this time. If you're working in teams, it's just a great technique. Dr. Wilson, who introduced this to me, started bringing this into our medical executive committee meetings at the hospital as a way to start to get everybody really kind of on the same page and appreciating each other before we launched into some contentious and some challenges. So again, if you have any questions, I'd love to have the conversation with you afterwards.
Dave, we have a
Anything,
question.
Mickey, yeah.
How long would you say it takes to really make HeartMath an effective part of our lives? In other words, to really see the effects? Well,
I think the research at HeartMath shows that you'll start to see some but again, like it's any new habit, it takes a little while. This isn't, you know, it's simple in terms of how it works, but it does take a little determination, you know, unlike a medication or something that you might take. But, you know, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, you can start to see some significant changes in your physiology by practicing this. And again, it's the key is to, you know, I often tell people, you know, again, morning, just set aside a couple of minutes, 5 minutes. You don't have to remake everything. Take a little midday break, and then take a little break in the evening before you go to bed. If you take a calendar and draw, you know, even 2 boxes every day or 3 boxes, and you check those off when you get them at the end of 7 days, you can start affecting a change and developing a new habit. So, but it does take a little while, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. Again, I mean, the benefits in the heat of the moment are right then and there, but you build this coherence and resilience over time.
Thank you. We'll open it up to questions now. If you have any other questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can turn your mic on and ask them. Any questions?
I know that's one of the ones that that comes up is how long does this, you know, how long does this take? And I think that's you know, whether you're trying to learn a new, whatever it is, a new movement. I often relate things to exercise when I was training clients. You know, at first it may seem awkward, but again, it comes from repetition. That's really the benefit in doing something like this, is that, again, it takes a little while. Your brain is actually restructuring itself, laying down new pathways. It takes a little while for those neural connections to start happening, but and the mass, and that just gets better and better and better over time.
It doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. If we don't have any questions, then I'd just like to close us out by saying thank you, David. We truly appreciate you taking the time to bring this presentation to us. You can find more webinars and seminars on our website under events. And thank you for attending, and have a great rest of your day.